Hey y'all, welcome to Soccer for Us. I am Bart, and on this episode we are talking about the final, hopefully the final, roster for Concacaf World Cup Qualifying. You hear the man sighing on the other end. He's a man who loves the behind the crest videos and has no problem with Christian Pulisic's facial expression in the since deleted Instagram post from the U.S. men's national team. It's Caleb Cook from U.S. Soccer Corner.
I can't decide if it was just a really small hat or if Pulisic's head is just that big.
Yeah, it was. If you don't know what we're talking about, it's still up on Twitter, and there's the video is still up. But U.S. Soccer, the USMNT account posted a picture of Christian Pulisic, and he was not a fan of the way he looked in it, and they have taken it down. He got a little roasted by some of the other guys on the team too. It was quite funny.
Oh my God, I love it. I love it. Hey, you know what? Keep it light, keep it loose going in.
Exactly. Welcome to Soccer for Us. If you're new here, make sure to subscribe to Soccer Down Here. That's the platform under which we produce this podcast. Make sure you subscribe there so you get all the content from SDH, not just Soccer for Us, but all the SDH content. Make sure to follow the podcast on Twitter at Soccer for Us Pod. Caleb, we've got a final roster. Technically, this is the final roster of CONCACAF World Cup Qualifying. There could be possibly a roster coming out in June that is for an intercontinental playoff, but we will talk about those scenarios. But just right now, how are you feeling?
Man, I don't know if I could be any more nervous. I'm just gonna be honest with you. I'm trying to stay positive. I posted the lineup from the Gold Cup final. Looking at that roster beat Mexico, and I would venture to say that the roster we have going in, I think it's pretty clear. We have a better roster. That said, until we do it, I'm going to be in a nervous wreck.
Yeah, I think there's definitely a lot of post 2018/2017 trauma still resurfacing in the U.S. men's national team fan base. I do want to say that the projections right now heading into this final window are not they're as good pretty much as what we had going into the final window of last time. But we have 3 matches, not 2. So there are more opportunities to possibly get points and also more opportunities for other teams to possibly lose points. Again, we'll talk about all that. Let's just talk about this roster. We had 27 guys called in on Friday. That number is still the same. Actually, I think we technically have added one. I haven't seen if someone had been knocked off who got injured, but let's just go through it real quick. Goalkeepers: Ethan Horvath, Sean Johnson, Zach Steffen. Obviously, Matt Turner is still injured, not because of frostbite, but still injured, and Ethan Horvath basically replaces him. Defenders: Reggie Cannon, Serginho Dest, Aaron Long, Eric Palmer-Brown, Anthony Robinson, Miles Robinson, James Sands, DeAndre Edlin, Walker Zimmerman, and then the late addition, George Bello, who was brought on most likely to just replace Serginho Dest. I don't think they've updated the roster technically without Dest. He got injured. It was a hamstring injury of some sort in the Europa League, not Conference League, Europa League match against Galatasaray for Barcelona. Midfielders: Kellen Acosta, Tyler Adams, Gianluca Busio, Luca De La Torre, Yunus Musa, Christian Roldan. And the forwards: Brendan Aronson, who reportedly will be traveling to camp, Paul Areola, Jesus Ferreira, Jordan Morris, Jordan Pefok, Ricardo Pepi, Christian Pulisic, and Gio Reyna, and then finally Tim Weah. Obviously, the big news from that group, Gio Reyna's back. Right off the bat, that makes me happy, right? Gio Reyna coming back is a fantastic plus. But overall, what are your initial thoughts on the roster as we see it right now?
I think it's pretty much what we expected. Few guys are out. There's just, we can talk all day long about why they're gone, why they're missing, what they did wrong, what they've not done. John Brooks, obviously, is who I'm talking about.
Yeah, the John Brooks
It's
omission, especially when Aaron Long and Eric Palmer Brown get called up. And no offense to either of those players, but I
right,
don't rate them at the same level as John
right.
Anthony Brooks.
And that's the thing. Like I said, we can talk all day long about it. I just get frustrated because of what we keep being fed. The whole like he's got some things to work on. Like, listen, just come out, say there was some beef, and whatever. Uh, to sit there and tell us that it's about form or he's got some things to work on, whatever. It just seems insulting almost. Like we're not idiots, and it feels like we're being treated that way.
Also, the guy is 29 years old and has been
Right,
playing professionally for like 10 years of his life.
right,
I don't know what Berhalter is saying. Like, oh, we need this. Again, this is not a club. You're not like developing players. It's like he's 29. He is who he is. Can he improve at something? Sure. But like everyone can, but it's not like he's going to drastically become a different player. He's not going to magically become faster.
right. Exactly. I mean, because that's the thing. If he's got to work on anything, it's you got to develop your recovery speed. It's probably not happening at 29 years old.
Yeah.
It's just that's frustrating. But EPB was surprising. But other than that, like I said, I think it was pretty much what we expected.
Yeah, I don't think there's any real surprise other than Eric Palmer Brown is a nice surprise, right? Like that was okay, cool. I would say that he's probably more the Chris Richards replacement than the John Brooks replacement. Chris Richards not here because of an injury that he picked up against Canada. He is, I think, back for Hoffenheim, but not like back, if that makes sense. He's not fit to play really, but he has recovered supposedly from that injury from what I've seen. So definitely, I think EPB is the Richards replacement. I don't think that means he'll play necessarily, but I think he fills that type of player profile on this roster. And then obviously Weston McKennie out because he hurt himself. He got hurt, I should say, in a match for Juventus. He is, quote, done for the season. I think that people took that as like some like major, oh my gosh, it's catastrophic. No, the season's almost done and he'll be coming back like at the end of May. So why are we forcing him to come back? It just sucks that we won't have him for this. I mean, he was, in my opinion, the most important player that we could have had on the field. And to not have him for 3 matches that are going to be both tough and important kind of sucks.
100%. I mean, that's the biggest blow. I mean, Sergiño Dest getting injured, it sucks. But Weston, like we've talked about it before, he's the emotional energy leader
Absolutely
on the team. And I mean, not only that, he's just so vital in what he provides on the field. Just he wins everything. He's just nonstop motor. Fantastic on set pieces. Just the most important player we had coming into this window. And of all people to get hurt, it's just why him? I'm with you. That one that just sucks.
Yeah, I think Destin Richards are replaceable to an extent. One, I don't think Richards is like for sure the starting center back that like is the most important center back we have on the team. I'm not sorry, people are going to come for me for that. I'm not saying that he's not good or that he shouldn't be starting. I'm just saying that like we have 3 center backs who are basically the starters. Richards is part of that. Dest is a dynamic player, but it's not like Sergiño Dest adds something that can't be somewhat given to us by DeAndre Yedlin. I'm not saying it's the same level, but if you need a guy who's going to get forward and put crosses into the box, DeAndre Yedlin is very capable of that. Now, does he do everything else Sergiño Dest does? No. No, he does not. But, he is a replacement that I'm comfortable with. But there's not a guy in our pool who can do what Weston McKennie does. Flat out, period. I love Yunus Musa. He doesn't do what McKennie does. I really like Luca De La Torre. Definitely doesn't do what McKennie does. Busio has a lot that he needs to work on to become McKennie level. That is the part that's going to hurt the most because we needed that engine in the midfield and we don't have it. Overall, though, I think this roster of 27 guys is pretty good. I think that, yes, there's 1 or 2 guys that you could say should be here over others, but I think I've seen a lot of people saying like, oh, we're going to be missing or be without Joe Scally and John Brooks. Y'all, we haven't had them. So this team has performed adequately enough without them. Would I like them here? Yeah, but like this team has been operating fine without them. I do have two issues, and let's see if you agree. Still, like, Greg, why are we only bringing 27? And until he added Bello, we only had one actual left back, and that was Anthony Robinson. Des was going to be the secondary left back, and that just seems needless. We don't have a cap on the roster size. We're playing 3 matches, one at altitude. I thought that 27 and specifically only bringing one actual left back was pretty, I don't know, imprudent from Berhalter. Also, I'm still not a fan of only bringing 6 midfielders when we have others that we could have brought in. There were some guys that I know there are guys on this roster who could probably play in the midfield. I think James Sands is one who could be a defensive midfielder. You have Gio Reyna and Brendan Aronson who can play as more of attacking midfielders. Gio does that for Dortmund. So I think it's possible they could be in the midfield, but I do think that there was 1 or 2 guys that you could have brought in the midfield that would have just given us more options. That said, no Sebastian Lletget, no Jossie Zardes. So I think we've upgraded at those positions to bring in guys over them.
The only thing that I can think of as far as the, restricting his roster size on his own, I wonder because, he tried to create I don't know, when was this, in the summer, creating the whole flying from Europe to here, just recreating a process that they're going to have to face later on. Like, he thinks ahead a lot. So I'm wondering if he's just trying to restrict himself a little more each time to get ready for the World Cup, because he actually is going to be capped. I don't know. I'm trying to make sense of something that I just don't understand. You know what I mean?
I agree with you, but I would rather do the smartest thing possible to make the World Cup, because we have Nations League in June and then friendlies in September to try that out. And I think Nations League would be a great opportunity. We're only taking 23.
I think it's just on brand, right? The whole overthinking things.
We also don't know if the World Cup is going to limit the roster size to 23. It could be done very much like qualification, where you bring maybe 25 to 30, but you only need a 23-man game day roster.
Game day. Yeah, that's the thing. It's unnecessary. So why do it? And if it is about okay, I'm just trying to keep it restricted and, on my own, trying to get ready for this, don't think about that far ahead. Just qualify.
Yeah.
None of that matters. But again, that's just speculation. Who knows why he's doing it? I'm trying to make sense of something that I just don't understand, which is a common theme throughout this entire World Cup qualifying process.
For reference, Canada only brought 25 guys. But Canada doesn't have the deep pool that we do, right?
Right, exactly. Not even at all. Not even close. And then as far as Zardes, Lletget being dropped out, I think it's safe to say that they've been passed. We've seen Berhalter go through his process of giving guys time, giving them a long leash, and then eventually they either play themselves out or someone steps up and takes their spot. I think it's safe to say that Lletget has been replaced by Luca De La Torre.
A lot of guys.
Definitely
De La Torre.
And I think it's safe to say that Zardes has probably been outplayed by Pifok in this moment. Maybe not long term. I don't know, but I think that's who took the spot in this roster. Roldan still being in the roster, I wonder if McKennie wasn't injured, would he have been dropped as well?
Right. I think that's a good question, because I think Roldan, this is the thing about Christian Roldan, is he obviously performs very, very well at the club level. So even from that standpoint of form, it's hard to deny that he's one of the best American midfielders in MLS. Sebastian Lletget hasn't really been living up to that for the most of the time in 2021. He's looked better with New England, other than the CCL match where he skied a penalty kick. But when it came to him actually being a part of this team, we haven't seen him on even a match day roster since the Panama game. At least Roldan has been making those rosters, and everyone knows I'm not a huge fan of Roldan. I don't think he actually brings anything to the national team, and I mean that because he literally hasn't in his 30-some appearances. He's brought 1 assist. But it's not like he hasn't clearly been doing something even in camp to warrant like an inclusion, whereas Leggett clearly hasn't. Zardes has been passed at the club level even. So, it's kind of hard to bring in a guy who's not starting in MLS to the national team, especially when we have other forwards who are scoring, mainly Jordan Pefok, who I think does basically the same stuff that Zardes does, but in different ways. And I think he does some things a little bit better, like putting balls home in front of the net, because Zardes has struggled with that even this year.
Something I'm thinking of with the whole Zardes thing, the Pefok thing, strikers, scoring, all this stuff. And then we talked about Aronson. We don't really know confirmed whether he's in, whether he's out, whatever. But my thing is, regardless of whether Aronson is in or out, let's say he's in, but he is injured, which means he's not 100%. So why not bring a Josh Sargent in, who's on the preliminary roster or whatever the freaking term they used the other day? That what did they call that? The
provisional? Did they call it provisional roster?
No, it was like the reserve something.
Basically, U.S. Soccer. So Norwich came out and said he's on the reserve list, or the reserve roster for qualifying. U.S. Soccer basically clarified that like they submit a list of 40 players to notify clubs, basically like, hey, your guy might get called up, which like is a little bit, peeling back the curtain, but totally makes sense. Like there's no way that they tell these clubs on the Friday that the roster is announced, like, hey, this guy might get called up. And like, there's no way that it's just the 20 some whatever that get called up. But I'm with you. I think if we need to, I would just call up Sargent regardless. I would have been on the phone with him yesterday. Like, yo, hey, you ready? Only because he does play in a similar style to Aronson on the wing. He does press really well. He works hard. He doesn't do a whole lot in attack, as we've seen. But I'm with you. I think that Sargent would have been the only one that makes sense in terms of trying to replace Aronson. We do know from reporting, Meg Swanick said that it would interfere, but then that was also not that she's wrong. I think she probably got sources from Salzburg / like people at that club. And then Stu Holden reached out to the Aronson camp and maybe him directly, and they said that he would be in camp, but it also could be that he's going to be in camp and we don't know if he's going to actually be able to play, which is concerning to me because I don't think we have a winger who does what Aronson does at the level he does it. We can talk Paul Arriola, but I still think Brendan Aronson is a winger that we don't really have anywhere else on this roster.
Yeah, I think with Aronson, if he had said something about like, he's got a sore back or something and that's why he was held out, then we all know that's one of those things where you're just trying to sit out this weekend so you can be healthy or whatever. With it being a knee, that's what kind of, triggers my alarms. But I just, with Josh Sargent, he's riding some pretty high confidence at the moment. He plays winger a lot for club. He is a striker, natural striker, just dealing with pushing himself to the highest level he possibly can, playing for a really poor team. And I mean, you look at Ricardo Pepi, everybody thought he was the next coming of Jesus Christ himself. And then now he's at a club who just doesn't get a ton of service. You're not running, you're not holding, most possession in the Bundesliga as far as Augsburg goes. And so you're seeing what it's like for a striker who can score to play with a team that doesn't give him a lot of service. And that's what people just want to push that all on Josh. And the thing is, like, there's context to this stuff, and people want to ignore that context. Josh hasn't scored a ton, but
he hasn't.
You can't ignore the fact that it's not something that you can just do on your own. But my thought is, like I said, because he can spell you at winger, striker, he's riding high on confidence. He would have just been in my roster, like you said, from the get-go. But now he's definitely got to be someone you call. I don't understand why we haven't heard anything about that yet.
Yeah, I think the fact that we haven't, it's Monday when we're recording at 1:00. I don't think we're getting Josh Sargent in this window. That would have been something that would have had to do, yesterday, Sunday, as soon as they heard the news about Brendan Aronson. We also haven't heard anything from U.S. Soccer that Brendan Aronson wouldn't be a part of camp. So I think it is probable that he'll be in camp. Again, can he play? I don't know. Let's talk about the goalkeeper position, because we do have Zach Steffen here, who is probably Berhalter's preferred starting goalkeeper. He did play over the weekend in the FA Cup. So, I think the questions of fitness are out of there, right? I mean, am I wrong? Is it Steffen starting all 3 of these matches, or does Horvath have a chance?
That's a tough one. I mean, honestly, that's a really tough one.
Horvath's been playing and playing well.
He's taken that starting job. He's earned it. And you've seen what he can provide. I don't know what he's going to do. I mean, we don't know what Berhalter's going to do ever. But that one's a tough one. If Steffen has been your number one and he's healthy, just because Horvath's coming in strong, do you bench him? Honestly, it's one of those moments where I am glad I'm not the coach, and I'm glad I don't have to make that decision, because I don't know what's right and what's wrong there. I don't know if you can make the wrong move. Both of them I have the utmost confidence in. But as far as like personnel management, they're the psychology of it, that's a tough one, man.
I think that we've kind of felt that Turner and Steffen are goalkeeper 1A and 1B, depending on how you want to rank them. I think we've all felt Horvath as a definite number 2. But right now, again, Horvath is playing. He's been playing consistently. He's been playing well, pretty consistently. Steffen is clearly back in fitness. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been on Premier League squad, match day squads, and he wouldn't have played in the FA Cup. I think that Steffen is probably starting all 3 of these matches, but I wouldn't be surprised if Horvath starts at the Azteca, just because it would be a way to and this sounds weird, but you do have to take into consideration the fact that you're going to 7,000 feet above sea level to play, and then going to Orlando, a city a couple hundred feet above sea level within 3 days. So it's possible that that's just one of those places where Berhalter rotates without really giving up a whole lot of quality. I think Steffen's starting all 3 of these matches. I think he's probably the preferred goalkeeper right now in this pool. And I don't really have anything negative to say about it, because I don't think any of these goalkeepers have said, I am the starter. And Steffen has been pretty consistent in qualifying. So
the only thing that I could see is Berhalter rewarding Horvath for earning that spot and taking the starting job, and sending a message at the same time to Steffen saying, hey, it's important to be the number 1 for your club as well.
Yeah.
And, hey, let's get a little bird in the agent's ear and see if we can get a move. Because the thing is, Zach Steffen is a number 1. He's just not at his current
He's
club.
at Manchester City.
Yeah, exactly.
He's a number 1 for a lot of other, 100%. He's a number 1 for a lot of other clubs in the Premier
League. He'd be a number 1 for over half the clubs in the Premier League, over half the clubs in the Bundesliga. I mean, he is. Yeah. It's not like he's just a backup keeper in the negative sense. He's a stud.
And it's frustrating because now we have Matt Turner going to Arsenal, and as an Arsenal supporter, I don't think he displaces Aaron Ramsdale.
Right.
Because Ramsdale has absolutely taken the number 1 shirt. That's his now.
Exactly.
From both a performance and a locker room thing. So
you're gonna have 2 in the same situation. And then if Horvath is starting week in and week out and just continuing to play the way he's playing, like I said, maybe you reward that. But I'm with you. I don't care who is in the net at the end of the day. I'm glad I don't make the decision, but I have full confidence in all of them. And honestly, I would love to have Horvath starting in Azteca just as one of those hey, screw you, Mexico. Remember this guy?
Yeah.
Remember this guy?
Would be fun.
Yeah. So we'll see. We'll see.
Going back to the striker position real quick, we'll just flip the field. I do want to point out that Norwich have scored 18 goals all season. So when you decry Josh Sargent for not scoring a whole lot, let's just remember that Norwich don't score a whole lot. But let's talk about the strikers who are here. We have Jesus Ferreira, Ricardo Pepi, and Jordan P. Falk. Now, we saw last window that despite Ricardo Pepi clearly showing that he's the only striker in this pool who can score for the U.S. in qualifying. He's literally the only one. He didn't start until the third match of the window. He didn't start the first one against El Salvador. He didn't start the away match at Canada, probably the second or third most toughest match of the campaign. I'm a little concerned that Greg Berhalter doesn't know who his striker is, and I think that's more detrimental than having strikers who aren't necessarily performing well. I want him to settle on a starting striker. Now, that said, does that mean that striker starts at the Azteca because of all the things we talked about earlier about, it's going to be at altitude? Probably I don't see this game being a game that we go out and try to play beautiful soccer. We could, but I'm kind of the mindset of we're going to press and run and battle for 60 minutes and then hope that we get an equal, a nick one late to get a draw or a win or whatever. But I'm concerned that Greg doesn't know who his starting striker is right now. Do you have that same feeling?
Yeah, I'd agree. And I don't know if I can fault him for that. You've got a Pepe who was riding high. He's made a move for his career, and it's hurt him a little bit. But I think you could look at Pepe as one of the ones where, listen, I know if he has chances, he can score them. The unfortunate part about that is if you haven't been doing it regularly, a lot of times you might put yourself in those situations and then have Ferreira moments where you have put yourself in the exact right spot, but you're pushing too hard because you don't have the repetitions of doing that on a regular basis with your club. So I don't know, but I could see him trying to start Pepe just because he's a little bit younger. He's going to run a lot, and he's been used. He's anytime he's had PFOC in camp, he's used him as a later sub, anyways. Right. So that's as far as trying to get into Greg's head. That's the only thing I can think of that he would do. Yeah.
He did start that game against Canada in Nashville, and it was. I think the reasoning was to get on the end of crosses. The problem was we didn't create chances, period. Was PFOC part of that problem? A little bit. But also Canada set up to bunker and not allow us to play to a striker like that, right? If you're going to have PFOC against a bunkering team, you're just going to get the ball wide and cross it in and hope he gets on the end of it. Which, to be fair, is probably what we're going to be facing against Panama. Panama's not a team that comes out and attacks. They're a bunker and counter team. So that's where I don't know who to play against them, because I think there are two very distinct approaches to playing a bunkering team. One is to go long or, go wide and get in crosses. And the other is to try to pick locks and play through the middle and, have intricate combinations at the top. And I don't know, we could see Ferreira start in that match, but that's the most important match. And if you're telling me that Jesus Ferreira is starting for us in the most important match of qualifying, I'm not super confident about that.
Yeah, I talked about context earlier, and that's a bit of context that I'd love to talk about, because I think it's something that people don't pay attention to, or if they just want to ignore it, or if it's just willful ignorance. I don't know, but I don't think people realize how difficult it actually is to break down a professional team, whether it's international or club. But when teams are playing a low block, it is extremely, extremely difficult to break them down. And people want to look at, we're not scoring goals. Well, why do we score goals against Mexico? Because Mexico actually want to play soccer.
Or Honduras.
They're pushing,
who are incapable of, Honduras is incapable of playing good soccer. But we score goals against Mexico.
Because they are actually playing soccer with us, which creates space and it opens them for the counter. We can actually hit them when they are not organized. When you sit and you are trying to break down an organized block of 2 or 3, it is unbelievably difficult. And because of our quality, because of who we play in a qualifying process, we're playing generally poor teams, and that's what they're going to do. And that's why it's so hard to score goals. That said, you still got to do it. Yeah. And I'm with you. If it's Ferreira, that's a lot of weight on a guy's shoulders who doesn't normally play in that spot.
Yeah. I mean, granted, he got a hat trick over the weekend for Dallas, but I think I'm hopeful that allows him the confidence to score, because what we saw in the El Salvador game was a lot of chances created.
Yes.
Comparatively.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't score.
Exactly. If it's me, to me, Pepe he's young. He is a natural goal scorer. And I think you put aside what's happening as far as current form goes, and you say, okay, forget that. I'm going to play this kid as my striker. You play Pepe. When we create chances, you bank on the fact that he is a natural goal scorer and he's going to get the job done regardless of whether he's been doing it in club or not. Does that make sense?
I agree. I think Pepe needs to be the guy that's your default.
Yes.
This is what I play. Now,
that's what I would do.
If you tell me against Mexico that, we want to start Ferreira because, he presses really well, and when we get into those final combination areas, we need to be able to, pass and connect those passes. I get that, right? But the Panama match at home should be the most ideal conditions we're going to play in. We're at home, a very friendly venue against a team that, quite honestly, is not good. I'm sorry, they're not a good collection of players. Are they playing well as a team? Yes, but they're not the quality that we are. We beat this team 4-0 in the same exact situation in 2017. There's no reason why, with whomever our starting striker is, we shouldn't also be able to replicate somewhat that result. And I think that I think Pepe is the number one. I'm not saying it's locked in stone or anything, but he is, for me, the striker who has consistently proven the most in qualifying. I need him to start against Panama.
Yeah, and honestly, talking about Panama, their quality, when they're sitting organized, low block, you're not scoring, it's going to be difficult. If it's me, I'm sitting there, regardless of who I start, I'm telling them, you go at them as often and as quickly as you possibly can. Relentless shots from deep, crosses. You put the ball in dangerous areas, because if you get one, then they have to start opening up a bit. They have to. If they're trying to get points, then they have to open up a bit, which only plays into our hands any better. I'm talking get one as early as possible, and you're not going to do that by waiting and trying to build out from the, for the best, most perfect shot opportunity, and it's got to be a really pretty team Man City goal. Screw it. Get the ball in the freaking box. Get numbers forward. They're going to allow for that. They're not going to, don't worry about the counter, because that's all they're going to do. So you've got cover there, especially with Miles and Zimmerman. I'm not super worried about that. I'm worried about the fact that we're going to sit there, they're going to have numbers behind, and we're just going to pass it around, swing it around, looking for the best and the most perfect opportunities. Look, just let it be ugly.
Yeah.
Get it in the damn box. Let it ping pong around. Who cares what it looks like? And this is my nervousness coming out. I don't know if you can tell. I'm getting really anxious talking about it. I don't want to see us play around with, it's our World Cup hopes on the line.
Yeah. And we'll talk about this in the next segment, but Panama is absolutely the most important match of this window, if not the only match that matters. And we'll talk about that in a little bit. Last question about this roster. Who are your snubs? Actually, we'll do two questions. So who's your snubs? And then we'll talk about who you're most excited to see. But who are your snubs?
I think, obviously, Brooks is going to be on everybody's list for every World Cup qualifier window forever in the world. So, that's just a given. It's in pen, right? I think next would probably be Scally. He gives you cover on both sides. I don't understand why you wouldn't want to have a kid who, if he's going to be in the future of your team, whether it's this World Cup in November or if it's next cycle, whatever, he's clearly part of your future. So why not get his feet wet? I don't understand the thought process there. I don't know. Well, yeah, we've talked about Josh. It's definitely a snub. I don't know if anybody else would consider that a snub. I do. But yeah, I'd say the biggest is going to be Scally. Yeah,
I do think Scally would have been a no-duh call-up. to just give you depth at both sides. I still don't understand why he's not. My snub, and he's been kind of under the radar from like a snub standpoint, but I'm still not sure why Georgi Mihailovic hasn't been called into camp the past couple of times. I'm not saying he's going to start, but it's just like, if you're going to bring in Roldan for his excellent performance at the MLS level, Georgi Mihailovic has been playing better than Roldan for a worse team. Why not? And he plays multiple positions. He can play an 8. He can play, at a winger. He's the one that I do think is a little bit of a snub. I'm not saying like I'm going to go, burn down U.S. Soccer House, but like I'm still concerned where Georgi Mihailovic has been. Next one is though, who are you most excited to see on this roster in this window?
I think it's got to be Pulisic. With McKennie being out, he would have been my answer, right? But I'd say it's Pulisic with the form that he's in at the moment, coming in. I mean, just on absolute fire. His confidence has got to be sky high. I think he's going to put the entire team on his shoulders in a good way this time. We talked about the fact that he had been playing with a really heavy weight of, just trying to put the team on his back solely. But I think this time he's going to come in just with absolute confidence, and I think he's going to get the job done for us. He's been playing lights out.
Yeah, I think hopefully Pulisic is in a better headspace about his role on this team. It's not to carry the team, it's to facilitate the team. Especially now that McKennie's not here. I'm most excited, honestly, to see Luca Della Torre for similar things. I think that now that McKennie isn't there, he's a guy who can replicate what McKennie does in terms of going forward with the ball via passing, because we know Yunus Musa can drive on the dribble, but like we do need someone who can unlock defenses with their passing, and McKennie did that brilliantly. I think Della Torre has that as well. But yeah, I think Christian Pulisic, this is his time to shine. Just take a step back, man, and don't act like you have to do everything. Just let the play come to you, and you'll be able to show out, because that's what he does at Chelsea really well.
Well, I think the whole like letting it go and admitting what he was doing, I think there's a difference between feeling like you have to carry the team versus just carrying the team. So that's what I was saying. Like, I think he's going to come in, and I think he is going to carry the team, but he's not going to be doing it with the mindset of the fact that he has no choice. Does that make sense?
I know, I 100%. Like,
so he's going to be playing with a freedom that he hasn't had in a while.
Yes.
And it's as long as he continues and plays with that freedom that he's been playing with at Chelsea, I think he's going to light the world on fire this window.
All right, well, that's the roster discussion. Again, 27 guys, now 28, I guess, because, again, Sergiño Dest hasn't officially been removed. I don't know. U.S. Soccer is weird about the communication. Let's move on to talking about the standings and the situation we're currently in. I know this is going to give everyone anxiety, but let's talk about where things stand and what we need to do to qualify. All right, looking at the qualifying table standings, again, the Octagon, the Ocho, however you want to talk about this final 8. You have Canada in first place with 25 points. The U.S. is in second on 21, but Mexico is in third, just behind us on 21 points. Panama on 17 points is in fourth, which is the last qualifying spot that would go to the Intercontinental playoff. Costa Rica is in on 16 points in fifth, so they still have a shot to both make the Intercontinental and obviously the World Cup outright. And then below that are 3 teams that have already been eliminated: El Salvador on 9 points, Jamaica on 7, and Honduras finishing up on 3. It is important to note that the U.S. has a +9 goal differential, whereas both Panama and Costa Rica have a +1 goal differential. So that's a strategy when we're talking about going to Azteca, right? Of like keep it ugly, right? So that Mexico is not allowed to play pretty, or just keep it tight and make sure that Mexico doesn't score many goals. I think that's a perfect plan for the Azteca match, because if you can minimize the amount of goals Mexico is going to score on you, which, we have been able to do pretty well, that is key. Our schedule in March, we play first at Mexico on Thursday, March 24th. That's a 10 p.m. kickoff. It's 8 p.m. local. Then we play at home in Orlando at Exploria Stadium on Sunday, March 27th, and then travel to Costa Rica for the final match day, Wednesday, March 30th, 9 p.m. Eastern and 7 p.m. local. Okay, let's rank these matches in terms of importance. Which match is the most important for you?
I mean, it's got to be Panama. U.S. Mexico is always an important match. Sets a tone for a lot of things. But when you look at where the standings are, I don't think you can say that the U.S. Panama match doesn't hold the most weight. I just don't see any way around that.
I mean, let's break that down for a second, though, because, again, we're on 21 points. We are 4 points ahead of Panama and 5 points ahead Costa Rica. So Mexico, yes, they're in second right behind us, but, we can't, because we're tied on points, if we beat them, great, that's going to be awesome. If we tie them, great, that's going to be awesome. But, they still have 2 more matches that are pretty easy. Let's just put it that way. They're pretty easy. They're very winnable for them. I'm not also if Mexico finishes ahead of us, so what? As long as we're in third place in the top 3, it doesn't matter, right? If we beat Panama, period, Panama cannot jump us in the table. Period. They can't do it. They have to finish 4 points better than us and or more and have a better goal differential, right? So beating them means they cannot get more than 4 points than us. That's why it's the most important match. It just comes down to straight up if we beat Panama, they cannot finish ahead of us in the standings.
Yeah, and that's the thing. You control your own destiny type thing. If we do that, we get those 3 points, then we're not worried about what anybody else is doing. That's why it's just that's the one. That's the most important one, which leads me to. And, I'm sure you're going to talk about this, but what's the tactical setup for Mexico thinking ahead, which I know that's the cardinal sin, right, with sports. Don't look ahead, one game at a time. There's no chance that they're not looking ahead at that Panama match, knowing how important and how much weight it holds as far as get this one done, regardless of what happens at Mexico.
Yep. I think the second most important match then is that match at Costa Rica because, again, they're a team who they're 5 points below us in the table, okay? So they have to get 6 or more points better than us. Basically they have to get a 9-point window, right? If we beat Panama especially, they have to win all 3 matches in this window, which is not undoable. They play Canada at home. They go to El Salvador, and then they host us. So it's very doable for them to get 9 points. But if we just draw them in Costa Rica, they can't finish above us in the table, basically, if we beat Panama. So, again, to me, that's why it's the second most important match, is just comes down to head-to-head. Does that sit with you?
Yeah, that's the whole thing. Talking about Costa Rica, if they do this, if we beat Panama, then at that point, as far as my sanity, let the cards fall where they may. If Costa Rica comes out and just 9 points, I don't see that happening. So it's still, to me, just go do it, take care of business, and we're good to go.
Here's the other thing about Mexico. I don't know if it's that important to Mexico either. They go to Honduras, a team that's already eliminated and is crap, and then they host El Salvador. So if they don't beat us, say they only get 1 point, right? A draw. Oh well. They've got 6 pretty easy points coming up, and they're just as concerned with Panama and Costa Rica. Absolutely. So I'm sure they would love to get a win and basically be clear, right? But both of for the U.S. and Mexico, a draw isn't the worst result. Together, it's a pretty decent result.
Exactly. Where you think is Greg and Tata having conversations hey,
have a nice little gentleman's handshake.
What do you think about this? What do you think about this? Who's Panama have for their first?
So let's talk about that. Panama plays Honduras first.
That's right. Okay, that's right.
It's and Panama. So let's just give Panama 3 points right there. Panama then closes the window with Canada at home. So our 2 best friends this window could be Canada, who play both Costa Rica and Panama, and El Salvador, who also play both Costa Rica and Panama, they also play Mexico. So, yeah.
That's one of the things that worries me and makes the Panama game, weigh that much more. If they go in, they get 3 points. I say if. That's pretty decent if. They come in to our match down one point from us, depending on what happens with the Mexico match. Let's say we lose, whatever. There's a potential for them to come in with being down one.
Right. And especially a Honduras team that gives up a lot of goals. So again, that goal differential now compresses.
Exactly. So again, that just puts more weight on our match.
Right.
With Panama. But then again, with Canada having things pretty much in the bag,
they're not technically qualified.
They're not.
They would have to lose every match.
Right.
And both Costa Rica and Panama win every match.
Right. But that's what I'm saying. Like, do they give one of those, like, looking at the table saying, hey, if we, slip up right here, it really hurts USA.
Yeah.
They'd love to do that.
They have Jamaica at home in that middle game, and you got to think that, like,
yeah, I mean,
they'll have, like, that'll seal qualifying for them.
So that's what I'm thinking. Like, all these scenarios, just go get the job done.
Yeah.
Go get 3 points in Panama. And as long as you don't, crap the bed, everything's okay.
Yeah. 4 points essentially qualifies us. That's the thing, right? 4 points gets the job done.
So do you go to Mexico knowing that the next game is the one that's really, really, really important? Do you rest guys? Do you rotate heavily? Like, what are you doing in Mexico? It's one of those hard ones. I'm glad I'm not the coach here.
I want to throw out a few stats just to kind of give some color to everything. Mexico is 3-2-0 at home this cycle. We're 1-2-2 on the road. That's win, draw, loss. So Mexico undefeated at home. We do have a win on the road, but we have not performed well on the road. I think that is a very fair statement. Panama is a surprising 2 wins and 4 losses on the road. So they do have a couple of wins on the road, but we're 5-1-0 at home, right? Also, in the third match of a 3-match window, right, we've had 3 of them. We're 3-0-0, 9 points. Costa Rica, on the other hand, 1-1-1. So I do think that's a little bit of I'm saying that's a plus in my opinion of we've won 3 matches. Now, granted, one of those was the Honduras match and they're just crap. But like we've won all 3 of our final matches of a 3-game window. However, one stat that is a little concerning, it's not like super concerning, but teams after playing at Mexico this cycle are 1-1-2, meaning that they haven't done well in their match after going to Mexico. And most of those are a home match after Mexico. So this brings me to that conversation of what's your approach for the Mexico match? And I'm telling you that I'm not saying that we're not trying to win. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that I think, to me, the goal of this Mexico match is to minimize the amount of scoring opportunities Mexico can create. That's my goal, because it is, one, Mexico will be frustrated, right? We've seen this play out in numerous USA-Mexico matches. 2, again, goal differential matters right now. That doesn't mean we don't go try to score. That's not my point. The number one goal is to limit the amount of scoring opportunities Mexico has in this match. I like Craig Velasquez from Scuff Pod basically just saying that we need to make this as ugly of a match as possible for like 60 minutes and then go see what we can do. What is your mindset of, like, what's your approach, and how does that kind of lead to how you would line up against Mexico?
I think for me, and I've put a decent amount of thought into it, I would probably go full strength lineup minus Tyler Adams. And the only reason is because I do not want there to be, and especially in the Mexico match, I don't want there to be an opportunity to have Tyler miss the Panama match on yellow card accumulation. So, but I think Acosta can play the 6 fine. He's done it.
Especially in the
Mexico.
same way that Tyler Adams will need to play the 6 in that Mexico match.
He's going to be very defensive, running all over the place.
Yeah.
But also, he's going to give you, especially if we're having limited scoring opportunities, who knows? But he's going to give you that set piece delivery, so it kind of gives you a little bit of plus there. I think it's a very winnable match. That said, regardless of World Cup qualifying, Aztec is just a hard place to go win.
Yeah.
So I'm with you.
We've never done it.
There. You go in there and you play to make it as difficult as possible. You know, I do this with my boys. Sometimes I go in and we're playing a team that I know that's just really, really, really good. You know what? Oh, we might not be the most dangerous team, but we're going to be hard to play against.
Right.
And that's the mindset you take. And I think that's what we need to do going down to Mexico. Be hard to play against. You try to get one, obviously. Like, everybody wants to win. But at the end of the day, you limit their scoring opportunities. You get out there with a point. You have got to feel super freaking good going in Sunday night against Panama.
So I agree. I would start Acosta because I think that what we need from the 6 in that game, Acosta can do. I also think that Acosta is a little bit better at progressive passing than Adams, which might be a good thing in this game if we get those quick transition opportunities. And as you mentioned, set pieces are going to be pivotal. Now, I don't think Gio Reyna will start because I know he started 90 and went 90 over the weekend. I'm still not like 100% confident in his fitness. So to me, Acosta starting gives you that set piece delivery without sacrificing a whole lot of the position he's starting in. I would have wanted Aronson to start because I think he would have been the perfect guy to run against Mexico for 60 minutes and then have Pulisic come on. Now I don't know. I don't know if I trust Areola to do that, although he did it fairly well in that Gold Cup final. I'm just not sure what that front three would look like because I would have started Aronson for the tactical advantage he would give us, or not advantage, but the plan of just harassing Mexico.
So I just had a thought.
Oh boy.
But okay. Playing against Mexico, you're going to want to be way more solid defensively, right? Tyler Adams gives you that. He's a more solid. I mean, he's the best defensive 6 we have, period.
Totally.
Against Panama, we agree they might not sit and bunker the entire time, but they're probably going to be sitting in a lower block, which means you're going to want someone a little better on the ball. And I would say Acosta's a little better on the ball than Tyler Adams.
I think that's incredibly fair.
So maybe you don't. Maybe you start Adams in the Mexico game, no matter what happens, or regardless. And then you just plan on starting Acosta at the 6 versus Panama anyways. Yeah. So now that I've thought about it, I hadn't thought about that until just now. Don't know why. But I feel a little bit better about it.
Would you play both of them?
I mean, it depends on.
I wouldn't play Acosta as an 8, but I'm just saying kind of 2 defensive midfielders.
Yeah, like having a double pivot or like a 4-2-3-1, whatever. Yeah. I just, I don't know. I'd hate to change things up just willy nilly. I don't like Acosta as the 8. I think now I've just changed my mind. I think I'm going to go Adams against Mexico, full strength lineup, and then just start Acosta versus Panama. I think I feel okay with that. I don't know. Talk me out of
it. No, I think the other underlying thing is Adams on a yellow card. I'd rather make sure we have him against Panama, and then that's it, right? Again, Panama's the most important match. You want your best player out there.
Yeah.
So I will say that I think my back line would be the same that we had in November. It'll be Anthony Robinson, Zimmerman, Miles Robinson, and Yedlin, which is how we played in November. I think that all those guys can go 90 or whatever in Azteca and then turn around and start against Panama the next match on Sunday. Also, they're the best options we have. And again, if the goal against Mexico is to keep things tight and to limit scoring opportunities, those are the 4 that I think are best to do that.
I agree. And I think, losing Dest hurts. It really does. I mean, he's a fantastic player and he's playing really well. He's got Xavi's confidence in him and he's playing confident. So it does hurt. That said, people look at Yedlin and they're like, oh, it sucks. Yedlin has gotten the job done for us on numerous occasions. Like you said earlier in the pod, is he Sergiño? No, of course not.
No one is.
But he can get the job done. I mean, we talk about depth all the time. Depth is something that you're going to have because just like we're experiencing this window, injuries happen, form happens. I mean, all this stuff goes into who's available. And you got to have that next man up mentality.
Yeah.
And at the moment, right now, I think it's going to be Yedlin, and I have confidence in him. Does he make mistakes every now and then? Sure he does. So does Dest.
Yeah, like it's not like Dest is like this lockdown defender. He's pretty good. Exactly. He's been better, but like
he's gotten better.
Yeah.
But it's not like Yedlin is some slouch. He's just a solid player. Yeah. So I'm with you. I would agree with the back four. And I'm confident. I feel like he'll be completely fine there.
I still feel like my front three, I would like to say it'll be, people are going to hate me for this. Weah. I'm going to start Pepe because I don't think he presses still pretty well and could get it, especially his height would be an advantage defending set pieces as well as attacking. Paul Arriola. Again, my goal is to just have him run and chase and annoy, which we know he can do. That's what he does. That's Paul Arriola. He's going to hustle and run. And if you don't have Brendan Aronson available to play, because we don't know, I think Arriola at what we have now is the only person who can give you that exact same type of performance. Aronson is just better once he wins the ball. But I don't know. I feel like, again, the goal is to make it hectic. I think Arriola makes it hectic.
So then have Pulisic come in for 30 minutes?
Pulisic would come in at like 45, 30 minutes, depending on how the game is going, right? Because I don't want him to start in a match that is – I just don't think the approach will be to be super pretty. Also, I think that he can be really effective off the bench, and this is one of those like, hey, you're coming off the bench because we think you're going to be most effective against Mexico when they're tired and you can –
I don't hate it. Save his legs a little bit. He's going to be
also that
a little bit more fresh for the Panama match. And he has shown time and time again that coming off the bench, especially against Mexico, he's a monster, and he's something that they're going to have to be. They're going to have to pay attention to. They're going to have tired legs, and then all of a sudden they look over, and here comes number 10 for the U.S.
Yeah,
I mean that's a scary thought. So I honestly don't hate that. You're right.
I'd also start him and Gio against Panama.
Yeah.
So again, I don't think starting Weah is like some sort of like.
Well, then you do like, Weah becomes the Pulisic from the Mexico match. Weah becomes that for the Panama match.
Right, exactly.
You bring a Tim Weah on with 30 more minutes to go, and these guys are already running like their legs are jelly, and now they've got to sit there and Timo Weah's over on the right wing with his little dancing feet. That's scary. I love that.
Yeah. So I think again, my goal against Mexico is not necessarily to rotate. That's not what I'm saying, but like the approach is different, so therefore you're going to need different players to meet that goal, right? Panama, you start your best 11 that you can, right? I think that's where you need your best 11 players out on the field to start and play as long as they possibly can. And then Costa Rica is same thing, but after 2 matches, who can go play them?
Yeah, agreed. I think Panama, you give everything you have. You leave nothing out there. You put your best foot forward, best 11. And then, if we get 3, let's say we get 1 from Mexico, 3 from Panama, and nothing matters in Costa Rica.
Start Eric Palmer Brown. Love it. Start George Bello.
No, I'm not kidding. That's what I'm saying. And that's where
start Horvath.
You have a guy like Scally. Why would you not have him in there? Because that'd be an incredible experience.
Yep. Yeah, I agree.
But I think you're playing with house money at that point, and you go get guys' feet wet, make sure everybody's healthy, and enjoy it. I hope that's where we're at. I'm going to say this. I'm going to say this for the 700th time. I'm nervous. I don't know if I've said it enough, but I want to be on Wednesday night just super happy and carefree. That's the hope. We'll see.
Well, again, I think you and I both agree that the most important match is Panama, but that doesn't mean you can't try to go get a result in Mexico and just make your job a lot easier. I'll be in Orlando on Sunday. So if you're there, hit me up on Twitter at Soccer for Us Pod. If you're not, look for me on television, I guess. Caleb, where can we find you?
A USMNT corner, and then not at the game. You won't find me at the game. I wish. I tried to talk the wife into letting me go, but we're going on vacation soon after.
Oh yeah.
So she put the nix on that one. She put the veto down. So I wish I could be there, guys. Sorry, but I'll be. I'll make a little old fashioned and sit there, watch on my TV, and I'll be there in spirit.
I was about to say you'll be stressing in spirit as well.
Very stressed. Yes.
Make sure you follow again Soccer for Us Pod on Twitter. Subscribe to Soccer Down Here. Caleb, thanks for joining me again. Thanks everyone for listening. I'm Bart. I'm out.